Hello and welcome to Market Square on Centerpoint AM45. My name is Mercy Nkere. On Market Square, we talk business. Today on Market Square, we're taking a look at uncommon transformation in the power sector and the economic implications. And joining me to do justice to that is the Senior Special Assistant to His Excellency on Power, and I'm talking about Dr. Victor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Missy.
Yeah, it's good to have you on Market Square. Okay. Now, constant power supply is very necessary for us to live comfortably, for us to improve our economy. In fact, there is no facet of life where we don't need power supply. And we're going to be talking about power, the economic, and we're taking a look at it from the business angle. Okay. First of all, Dr. Victor, let's talk about the Ibom power plants. Sometime last year, the major challenge was the shortage of gas supply. Now, with the commissioning of the Scepter Energy plant at Akwa, which is a gas distribution company, what effects does it now have on the Ibom power plants?
Thank you, Messi. Let me welcome you once again to our office here. This is where we house most of the power sector activities. We have engineers from here that work on the senatorial districts. We also have some of the staff of the power that are here since I took over as the MD of the power. The uncommon transformation is something that Nigeria, North Africa is very proud of, and it's under the leadership of a visionary, someone our people called the Promise Keeper. So we are doing a lot in the power sector. Power sector have 5 major important areas, and those 5 areas have to work together simultaneously at all times for us to have steady power supply. And I don't need to emphasize the importance of steady power supply in modern society, because if you don't have steady power supply, people will not have their hair done on time. They will not have their food preserved. They will not have their house warm or cold, the right temperature. So
I can't have my phone charged.
You can't have your phone charged, unless you are using generator, which people are very fond of doing. But the generator comes with a lot of problems. It's the noise, the environmental pollution, the costs, and all of that. So having steady power supply from what we call the large-scale supply, like what we are doing with power, is very, very critical. Number one, the economy of scales. If we put together all the generators and all the money we spend on fuel, it's a very small fraction of what we can produce electricity for. Now, to be able to produce electricity, you need gas. And gas, before we had a contract with power with the Nigerian gas company. They will give us gas when there is gas. And now we have a contract that says whether we like it or not, they will give us gas. And whether they like it or not, they will give us gas. So now they did a processing plant, they did a pipeline, they supply gas to power. And with that gas, the power can run steadily. As a matter of fact, since I took over the last 2-3 months, we've been running very steadily. The only time we shut down is when there are problems in the grids, which is beyond our control. So people have been experiencing steady power supply. And if you go to a place like the Cape, which is very close to economies, people are talking about 20 hours power supply. And you see welders doing their welding. You see hairdressers doing their shop. You see economy activities going. So power is very, very critical. Now, the biggest thing that the state government is about to do is this whole notion of industrialization. And you cannot industrialize without steady power supply, which is why we see companies that were here before, like Michelin, River State, they moved to Ghana because of a steady power supply. There is no steady power supply in Nigeria, as you can see. But with what His Excellency is doing, we're going to have steady power supply in Akwa Ibom. We're going to see a lot of investors coming to Akwa Ibom.
Okay, and that should be working in line with the Industrial Revolution Plan of Mr. President. Okay, and now talking about industries coming in and I want to talk a bit about the sector energy, that has to do with distribution of processing and distribution of gas, because recently all we kept hearing was the loss that the country was facing due to gas flaring, going to several billions of dollars. Now, with that in place, what is going to be what will be the economic implication?
Well, we are blessed in Akwa Ibom because we have most of our oil resources is actually offshore, and most of the gas we have is also offshore. But we do have good amount of onshore gas, which is what sector energy is leveraging on. That's a little bit not as expensive, because if you have to bring the gas from offshore to where people live, it's a very expensive infrastructure. And in fairness to the multinational, it's cheaper for them to just flare it than to bring it onshore. But what sector energy have done, because of the vision of His Excellency, who stepped out and said, look, come and develop this gas, I'll buy it. I'll buy it at $2 when gas was selling for 40 cents. He said, I'll buy it for $2. With that commitment, sector energy was able to go to the financial institution and say, I have a willing buyer. They get the money, they come in, partner with the state government, build that gas processing plant. So the gas we are talking about in Isileke is actually extracted from underground in Isileke. That's different from the gas that is flared. Gas that is flared is mostly onshore, deep in the oceans, which is very expensive to bring it down offshore. But I think His Excellency the President, the Minister of Petroleum, are going to have to do something so that we bring that gas. It is expensive, but we've got to find a way to bring it onshore so we can use it not only for power generation. You need gas for cooking. You need gas for industries. You need gas for petrochemicals. The petrochemical company that the President laid the foundation or the break ground for can take all the gas that we are processing at a sector. So we need more of that. So at some point, I hope very soon, we'll have to bring in that gas that is being flared and talk about economic development, economic activity, the employment that will create for people that will build the infrastructure. Once you bring gas to onshore for people to use, several people will come here to build power plants. And that's why I believe the whole Niger Delta is really blessed. And some of the things we are thinking about is to turn that blessing, not just for gas, but turn it into power. Because power is easier to manage, power is easier to export. And we can now take that power to the northern part of the country. That's one of the visions His Excellency the President, the Governor, all the 5, 6 governors of South Africa are thinking, and we're going to make that happen, hopefully very soon. Which is why it is very, very important that we make sure the transformation agenda of the President continues at the national level, because you need someone with vision to transform all of that waste, basically waste, into economic activity.
Okay. Now, you mentioned improved power supply in Eket, and we do have improved power supply even here in you. Now, we've crossed so many bridges to get to the point where we are. What other bridges are left to cross, to take us to that destination place where we'd love to be?
Definitely. Well, when I say they can probably have higher, maybe they have 20 hours, close to 20 hours. I spoke with the PhD business manager. He says you can even go up to 23 in Eket. Now, the reason that happens is because Eket's infrastructure is very close to economies. And sometimes when you have the grid problems, you don't experience it. The biggest problem and challenge I have is the grid. When I say the grid, is the transmission system. It's there, but it's not effectively managed. The distribution system, this state, through the leadership of His Excellency, we've done significantly well. Chances are, any village you go to, if not 9 out of 10, will have electrical infrastructure. Through the rural electrification initiative of this administration, we have almost 90% of our communities covered with electrical infrastructure, but it's not being operated properly. And that's the key thing. In where I practice in the US, that's what we call operational excellence, where people know what to do. But right now, I am sorry to say, PhD doesn't have that. They don't have the core competence. Core competence is not just people. People have to have the resources. They have to have vehicles. They have to have ladders. They have to have so many things. They have to have the communication network to dispatch. So that when someone says they don't have power today, in 1 hour, someone is there to restore it. That's not happening. And that's something we are working on. Like, the reason I'm not going to be available tomorrow, I'm going to talk with the MD of PHEDC, the MD of TCN. I want to let them know that I have the generation, I have gas, the transmission have been built. The state government actually built the transmission line, but this is not managed properly. It's not operated properly. That's why we are not having steady power supply. So if I can get through, get the operational excellence in this state, in this country, if I can get the core competencies that is required, the steady power supply is something that we hope and we believe, and His Excellency will be very happy to have before he leaves office next year.
Okay, now you've answered part of my next question, which has to do with your working relationship, the state government, IPP, then the PHED, that's the Port Harcourt Electrification Distribution Company,
yes,
and the
TCN,
Nigerian
Electricity Regulatory Company.
That's
Yeah.
right. What working relationship do you have?
Well, my role as the Senior Special Assistant to His Excellency is to make sure I coordinate all of this. I would like to say the law in 2005 broke NEPA into 18 operating companies. And then there are several other agencies, one of the biggest one being the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC. Next role is to regulate, to make sure all of the players in the industry do the right thing. And our role as the government is to make sure we support them, partner with them, give them the enabling environment to do their job. The regulatory aspect is purely NEC. The distribution companies, the 11 of them that came out of PHEDC, that came out of NEPA, they started with what we call power holding company, which is why some of them still call themselves power holding company. But they have been divided into 11 distribution companies. The one that serves Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Cross River is Port Harcourt Distribution Company.
Okay.
That too was privatized. The stages that the federal government is taking. The first thing was restructure, break it down into many companies. Second thing was privatize, which means bring in other sources. The state government, our state government and the other four state government drove the acquisition of Port Harcourt Electric Distribution Company. So we've invested, we've put in some money in there, the four states, plus our core investor and the technical partner. So our role there is twice. It's in twofold. I keep up, make sure the investment is managed properly. My role is to make sure His Excellency's vision of steady power supply comes to fruition. And what I'm doing is to coordinate, to partner with them, to push them, like what I just said, that they're not doing the right thing right now. They're not giving people meters. They're supposed to give people meters. Okay? So I'm pushing them to make sure there are meters. They're not putting the right people on ground. We push them, and we make sure that they change some of their management. Those people are now coming to meeting with me every month. We are talking issues, and wherever we can intervene as a state government, we intervene to help them. Because our vision of steady power supply is something His Excellency doesn't want to compromise. TCN is responsible for the national grid. They are more like the monopoly across the entire country. So when you produce power, when Ibom Power produces power, it puts it on the grid, which is managed by TCN. So NEC does the regulation, control, decide what happens. TCN makes sure it receives the power. Ibom Power is one of the generating companies. It produces electricity and put it on the grid. PHEDC is the one that distributes. That's supposed to make sure meters are available, people are billed properly. That is their role. And our role as government is really to make sure we provide the enabling environment, support them to do their work effectively. Another thing the government is looking at doing most likely is to make sure if we have to form a company like Ibom Power, similar to Ibom Power, to help make sure His Excellency's vision of steady power supply happens, we will do that. Because right now, since His Excellency asked me to take over the operation of the Ibom Power, it's been running effectively. We believe we can also provide such kind of environment to make sure the distribution can work effectively.
Okay. Now, I would like to ask a question that every end user of electricity ask, you being a stakeholder, being in the know of what's going on in the power sector. What if I receive a bill and I'm not comfortable with it because I didn't use much electricity for that particular month, and I get an outrageous bill? What happens when I complain and I don't get the response that I need?
What recourse do you have?
Yeah,
definitely. That's why NEC is there.
Okay.
You can call NEC. You can write to the chairman of NEC. You know, the NEC is being encouraged to make sure they open regional offices so that people can actually go in. But better still, you can also go to a PHEDC office. You know, I know if you go there and you still are not convinced, then you can take it to NEC. That's not really the role of the state government. You know, people think it's the state government. It's not the role of the local government chairman. It's the role, because PHEDC is a private company. They're just like your Glo, your MTN, your Airtel. But the problem that they are having is because they're not metering people. If they meter you and they show you that you actually consume what they bill you, there shouldn't be too much argument. Because you don't argue with the Airtel when you buy the recharge card. When you finish using it, it's finished. So NEC and the federal government is encouraging the distribution companies to do the same thing, put in prepaid meters, so that when someone buys the prepaid and charge and go home and uses it, there's no argument. So that's the stage we are going through, and we're going to continue to put pressure on PHEDC to make sure meters are provided. So once meters are provided, I believe some of these issues will be resolved. But you have recourse to NEC if you disagree with PHEDC. That's why NEC is there. They have consumer services at NEC.
Okay. Now let me ask a question that is going to be of benefit to some people living in, you know, sometimes we say if we want to complain, it's going about shortage of power supply. It's maybe some rural areas don't have yet, but they will soon have, you know, something like that. But right now there are some areas in this urban vicinity, like right here in you, like some streets they've stayed for years without lights, or, you know, no power supply. What should they do? Maybe I think some of them argue that they've done or they've complained and.
Well, that's a very interesting question. But let me correct the misconception there. Some rural areas actually have no steady power.
Yeah.
Because those rural areas that have steady power, they're benefiting from our common transformation. Because His Excellency have actually through rural electrification, we put in new high voltage facility. We put in new transformers, we put in new low voltage facilities. Unfortunately, NEPA did not do a lot. And the worst thing was, when we finished doing this, we handed it over to them. And they don't operate it very well. So what you see happening in the urban centers is those old equipment that were once they crack up, once they get damaged, someone has to replace them. It's not the role of the state government anymore. But what we do, what my office do, when they call and plead, we intervene. Okay, so my office role is really interventionist, you know. But the real people that are supposed to replace those transformers when they are damaged is now PHEDC. Just like when they give you SIM card, if your SIM card gets damaged, you go to the Airtel or you buy it from MTN. Okay. Unfortunately, you don't have that choice when it comes to electricity, because you cannot afford to have everybody running their wires. So PHEDC is the only company right now, and if you are not satisfied with what they're doing, you have to take your case to NEC. If you come to us and you make a very strong case, we might be able to intervene. One thing we don't do, we don't give communities that are vandalized their facilities. So some of the reasons that some of these facilities are not touched is because they are vandalized. So if the government gave you a transformer, and you as a community, you don't protect it, and someone come in and take the cable and go and sell for a few pennies, you can't come back and give it to you again, because there are other people who have to give to. So the reason you see some areas not having is because their areas have been vandalized. If we intervene and give it to them, they have to protect it and make sure nobody touches it.
Okay. Now, to what extent will the developments in the power sector lead to transformation in our economy?
Definitely. Like I said at the beginning, steady power supply in the modern life is very, very critical. You know, I lived in the US for quite a lot of years. You can count how many times, you know, the power is out. And when it is out, in 1 hour, you are back to service. So you can plan. You know, you can buy stuff and put in your fridge and know that they will stay there, nothing will happen to it. If you are a restaurant, you can plan what you are going to buy and know that those things are not going to be destroyed. So steady power supply makes sure there is no wastage. And when there is no wastage, there is economic profit, not losses. more importantly is the industrialization. You cannot industrialize. There is no industry you are going to build today that is not going to depend on electric vehicles. Even security. You need steady power to have security. Street lights. When there is street light and there is security, people will come and invest. And so I believe, electricity and power is a very critical role to making sure the economic revolution that Mr. President talks about is a reality. And that's why I believe Mr. President is taking power as a very critical thing he has to succeed. And I believe he will succeed at the national level. And we believe that Akwa Ibom can be a model for that because we have gas, we have transmission, we have generation, we are working with PhDs to fix the distribution. We are also working with all of them to make sure it is operated effectively. Because that's one big problem with our country. We don't have good maintenance culture. So you can build all this big infrastructure. If it is not maintained, it will become waste in a very short period of time. That's why my office is very critical. That's what we are doing here is very, very critical. Making sure we put those institutions in place so that even after this administration, we will continue to make sure that the successes we've achieved, the uncommon transmission continues. The uncommon transformation continues. That's why also you hear about consolidation and continuity that will produce sustainable development. So it's very, very important that someone who shares the vision of the president, of the government, continues so they don't take us back.
Okay. Now, before I allow you to, face other duties you have for the day,
yes.
What message do you have for Akwa Ibom people?
Well, Akwa Ibom people need to be very grateful to what His Excellency is doing. They need to support their common transformer, their visionary leader, especially in the area of power, which is my own specialty. What I'm sharing with you today, the governor is very appreciative of. The deputy governor is very supportive of what we are doing. The SSG, the commissioners, the advisors, and the entire government is committed to making sure we have steady power supply. And I'm very happy Akwa Ibom have what it takes to be the leader, the model for other states to learn from. And all that goes to the teamwork that His Excellency is providing.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been talking with Dr. Victor Udo, who is the Senior Special Assistant to His Excellency on Power. He is also the Managing Director of Ibom Power Plant. Okay, and he had to shed more light on the ongoings in the power sector as well as the economic implications of transformation in that sector. That's been it on Market Square Centerpoint AM 45. The rest of Centerpoint AM 45 continues. Stay with us.